guys, and welcome to another episode of Caribbean Spice and Southern Charm. We are your hosts, Tony B,
I'm Gigi.
And I'm Dee Dee.
and we are so excited to bring another exciting episode to you. So, you may have noticed, you may not have, but we do have a little bit of a different format going on tonight. We're testing it out, seeing how it goes, because we have some exciting changes happening and a lot going on in our lives. And we are so looking forward to sharing that with you in the future. But we just wanted to test this out and sort of see how it would work for us going forward. So hopefully it doesn't change sort of our energy and how we relate to each other, so that we can continue doing it moving forward. All right, so today we are going to be discussing navigating your career pivot and finding sort of your second act. So we'll start off. I want to ask everybody, what's sort of the most unexpected career change that you've made yourself, or maybe that you know someone else has, or you've seen someone else do?
So I can go first. One of the most pivotal career pivots that I've done was my first one, where I went from retail working at Gap Incorporated to banking. I learned had a lot of transferable skills, and I feel like it helped me with the process of selling. And then the other question, one of my dear friends went from working on Wall Street to becoming a user experience designer, which I thought was really interesting.
Okay, very cool. What about you, Didi? Anything?
I have a friend that went from being in management, like project management, and she's now the CFO in a small tech company. And also my experience, I went from being executive assistant for 15 years over to being an attorney.
Okay, very cool. Well, I don't think I've had anything that's been, I think for me, that's been that pivotal, but I definitely am. I always tell people I am on my third career. Well, I sort of loop back around. So I started in education, in the middle school sort of system, and then I have a degree in public health epidemiology. Didn't really work in that, but then went to OT school, so moved clinical, and now I'm back in academia. So just sort of not necessarily changing, but definitely being fluid and open to experiences and opportunities as they arise. So I think that's important to remember too, because maybe it's not necessarily that you're going to be changing like fully what you do, but maybe it's just a different setting, or maybe it's just a different geographic location, right? So we want to keep that in mind too as we talk about this. So, excuse me. So I guess to piggyback off of that, what are some of those like common reasons you think that we, especially we as women, as Black women, do those career pivots in our 30s and 40s?
I
So for
think
me, it's
that,
burnout.
oh, that's a good one. Go ahead.
So burnout, because a lot of times we give all that we can give, and we end up giving so much of ourselves that we realize that we're literally pouring from an empty cup. So I know even for myself, burnout was one of the reasons why I decided to leave banking and go into insurance.
Valid.
I think lack of career opportunities in your current
Mhm.
profession. I know that was one of my reasons. When I got my second degree, I wanted to get into something that I would have more career growth in, and that kind of led me into becoming an attorney. But it was precipitated by just feeling like I had no growth opportunities.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was thinking as you all were talking, I wouldn't consider it a second act, but like you all said, just even recently I've thought about like entrepreneurship a lot more, and just being more self-reliant and not relying on others. And it's because of that burnout. And it's burnout because you feel like you have these unrealistic expectations that you're meeting for somebody else, and you don't always feel like they're appreciating all your efforts. So it's like, well, if I'm spending all this time, all this energy on this person's job, I might as well try for myself, right? So stay tuned. I might have a second act, a third, or fourth, whatever we want to call it at this point, come in later this year. well, you know what? Let me reframe that. I will have another act happening this year. But yeah, definitely. And I love how you mentioned, Gigi, about the transferable skills when you went from retail to um sorry, banking. Yes, retail to banking, because I think that's what we also don't realize. Sometimes we get so siloed that we don't realize that every opportunity you're picking up skills that can transfer somewhere else, right? Just because it isn't the same job title doesn't mean that you can't take it and use it, um, in your new spot. And then also that fear of change. Have you all ever experienced that? Like, I know, um, Dee Dee, you might want to talk a little bit more about what that felt like for you, because I mean, you went back to school, like a whole degree, and not like I mean, no shade, but probably not like a cheap degree either, right? Like you had to really stop as a working woman and go back to that, and I'm sure there was some type of fear or hesitation. So, do you want to talk about that a little more?
Sure. I was encouraged for a long time to go to law school by others who were in my sphere after I got my paralegal degree.
Okay.
There was a lot of fear. There was fear of, can I afford to go back to school? Because a lot of times in law school, they have the expectation that you don't work. And I was already older. I was in my mid 30s when I really started contemplating it. And then, like you said, that fear of change, you going from one career to a completely, different career. Am I going to like it? Am I going to be good at it? Is it going to be fruitful in
Mm-hmm.
whatever aspects of my life I need it to be fruitful? And I'm, always going to be and have been a very, very big proponent of therapy. And it was discussed. My therapist helped me with some skills and techniques to kind of help me work through in my mind what that anxiety looked like and what, ultimately come to the decision of which is one of my favorite sayings, do it afraid. You're never going to alleviate all of the fear. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so you just get to a place where you accept that this is what you are either wanting to do, desire to do, or being called to do, and it will work itself out. And
Mm-hmm.
it did.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Something else that I want to add too is
Mm-hmm.
a root cause of burnout too is sometimes you feel like you're out of alignment. And that's one of the reasons why I felt like I was burnt out in banking because I'm an omnivert. Like I like having fun with my friends, but in reality, meeting strangers on a consistent basis, that actually takes my energy away. It actually depletes me faster than anything. I like
Mm-hmm.
doing it, but I like doing it in spurts. So with banking, I just felt like I was always getting out of alignment of what I want my core values to be and what I had to do. And I just felt like that also robbed me of and led me into burnout.
Fair. Fair. And so, as you all were speaking, I know definitely for you, Gigi, but probably maybe for Dee Dee too. I'm just curious if you all feel that, or well, let's take it back. Let's take it back to when you chose your first career or your
Mm-hmm.
first, do you feel like, I guess, why did you choose it, you think? Or was there I think of you think about like different cultures and Caribbean cultures and some African cultures is like you have to be one of these things. So, and I wouldn't say that I felt a lot of pressure when I made my first career choice, but did you all feel like you chose your first career because of any type of pressure, or changed a new career because of pressure, like culturally or anything like that?
I'll let Didi go
I'll let
first
you
with
go
that one.
first, Gigi, because mine has a really funny story to go with it. So I'll let you go first.
Okay. So for me, going from retail into banking, the real reason why I got into it is because I wanted to help people. And that's my core value with everything that I do. I always want to make an impact and make a difference. And with banking, I felt like that was my opportunity to help people in a larger scale with making sure that they felt financially secure and making sure that they heard that they know how to budget and that they knew the
Mhm.
fundamentals of what it would take to make sure that their budgets are balanced, and also extending lines of credit to them and making sure that I help them with their financial goals.
So, but what, I guess, what was the impetus or why did you choose retail to start?
And it was breaking up a little bit, but it sounds like you said what was the emphasis in the start?
Well, for retail, like, because you said you started in retail. So, or was that more just like a, like, I just had a job kind of thing. It wasn't really what yeah. So, what was that part of it?
So that part of it is funny because when I first went into retail, my mom was like, Gigi, you don't have to work right now because, you just graduated from college and you want a job, but you don't necessarily have to work right now. And I wanted that level of independence. And I wanted to make my own money and I wanted to be able to buy things. And that really was the real reason why I got into retail because I just needed a job. And it was just this necessity at the time.
Okay. So actually I think that's actually usually your story is usually not what you hear, right? Because I think of like Caribbean parents. I don't necessarily think of, oh, well, you don't have to work right now. Take your time to figure out what you really want to do. And that's what, and I mean, it's good that you had that, like you had that opportunity or you had that support, but I feel like that's not typical. So yeah. Okay.
It's yes. It's atypical. The funny thing is my first job was actually not necessarily even retail, it was actually doing taxes, which is so funny to me.
What
Taxes.
did you study? Just out of curiosity. What was like your
Psychology.
Oh, okay, 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 so not related at all. Okay, gotcha.
Nope. But the funny thing about psychology, I feel like my degree is worth its weight in gold because with psychology, I learned a lot of transferable skills and I learned the
Of
fundamentals
course.
of building relationships, building rapport, and different things of that nature.
Of course, but that doesn't mean I want somebody with a psychology degree doing my taxes. I mean, you might be able to talk to me and relate to me, but like, it's just saying, that's why I said it. I'm like psychology taxes. Just putting that out there.
So the amount of information that you have to learn to be a tax preparer at the place that I was doing it was so minimal. Like I didn't even have to take a true class. It was just literally, here's a book, just enter information where it belongs and you'll be fine.
Wow.
It's unfortunate.
That's a little scary.
Mhm. It is scary, but it was
Just
fun. It was definitely fun for a season.
fair. Yeah, what about you, Dee Dee?
Um, this is a really embarrassing story, but I still like to tell it because it's hilarious. So I decided what my first career was going to be when I was in high school. And I was not I'm going to be a doctor or I'm going to be a lawyer. Nope, none of that. I took business classes in high school, but they were like computer typing, literally like
Mhm.
typewriter typing. Um, and they were very like administrative type classes. So I was like, I like this stuff. What kind of degree can I get where I get to do this kind of stuff? So then I learned that there is a profession called being an assistant where you can go and this is what you would do every day. Where I learned that was there's a movie called Don't Tell Mom the Babysitter's Dead. And do you remember Sue Ellen Crandall? So that was her job. She worked for Rose. And when she said the phrase, "I'm right on top of that, Rose," I was sold. And so I was like, "I want to do that." And she's like running meetings and she's like going down and talking to the people in production. And I'm like, I want to do that.
Mhm.
And that's what I did. I went to school. At the time at North Carolina A&T State University, that degree, it has since been eliminated, but that degree at the time, it was a business education degree with an emphasis in administrative systems. That makes as
Interesting.
little sense as it sounds, but that's what it was called at the time. So that was what precipitated it. I took those
Okay.
business classes in high school and I liked doing admin work and I was like, I can do this. And then,
Yeah.
yeah,
No, I mean it, but it was passion, right? So it was for you at the time. And I didn't know you went to A&T. Why didn't I know that?
I don't know. I did.
Interesting. I mean,
And you
fam,
could.
know, but, we won't get into that right now. Anyway, so I guess so it doesn't sound like anybody really had pressure from parents to do anything in particular, which again, I feel like is not always typical. For myself, my mother was a guidance counselor. And so I loved how she interacted with her students. So I was, she'd pick me up from school and I would, like, if she had to go back to work, I'd go and like all the students would be like around her and they loved her. And I was like, oh, I want this. Like, I want like students to love me and be around me. So I don't know. I never thought to be a guidance counselor, which is interesting because that didn't cross my mind. I just said I wanted to be a teacher. So from the age of 5, I said I wanted to be a teacher. Nobody told me to do something else. Sometimes I wonder if they should have. But so I mean, like there definitely, I remember growing up were times when I was like, oh, I could be a lawyer. I can argue a case. I can argue till the wheels fall off, and I can do this and I can do. I never wanted to be a doctor. Sorry, my dog is back there doing, I don't know, contemplating life back there. Um, but so yeah, so I thought about a lawyer, and then at one really, really, so I really excelled in math. Um, so much so that my uh, mathematics teacher in high school was like, "Oh, you should be a math teacher. You should do something in math, something else, octorial science." I always say it wrong. And so at one point, I did think about accounting right before I started college, but I started college actually as a math major, but with the thought that I would just teach it. But then I just did it, and then I ended up going more the science route. So I wouldn't. I mean, I think that my mom was happy that I was going to be a teacher because it's seen as one of those careers where you always have a job, and I think not that she pushed me in it, but I think the cultural and not sometimes not having that freedom to just go to school and study meditation or something. I don't know. Something like freeing. Like it's like, well, okay, well, you're going to be a teacher. You're always going to have a job. You're always going to do this. So this is perfect. So yeah, so that was sort of my experience. So yeah, and I guess I like it enough because I'm still doing it, just in a different way. um, so I guess as we have people that are listening in and are thinking about how to plan for like this pivot of their life, is there any um, actionable advice you can give, like how strategies to get it done? So like when I think about it, I really think about for me, and it's honestly, this is something that I learned way too late. I don't know if I learned it way too late or I just don't like people, but networking is so important. And
Yes.
I think that, yes. And I feel like I have had opportunities just even in the last few years arise for me just because of who I know, which is good and bad, I guess, because, I don't want to have to know you to get the opportunity, but you just never know who's connected to who. So I really think, as someone is thinking about changing or even just advancing in their own network, it's so important to make sure that you are putting yourself out there. You are going to these meetings, you are going to these happy hours or these conferences, and just saying hi to people. Just say hi, right? Just give them your name and just talk to them a little bit about their interests. Someone once recently told me that you have to give before you can ask. So it's like show interest in them. Don't go and be like, oh well, I'm Tony B and this is what I do and this is what. Be like, oh, hey Gigi, I've been following your page or your whatever, and I see you're interested in this. Can you tell me a little bit more about how you got into it? So letting people know that you're invested in them and not just looking for a handout. I think that whole networking thing is great. What about you guys?
I agree. I think that
So for me,
utilizing like LinkedIn, um, even if you're still kind of trying to figure out what that pivot is going to be. If you have an idea, seeking out a person who's in that position to say, if you have the time, I would love to take you to lunch and I would really just like to hear your story, your background. Like, how do you like your job? How did you get into that job? If you have any advice for somebody who might be interested in that job or that career or that company or whatever that is. When I was considering law school, even before I applied to law school, I went and had lunch with um, general counsel. I had lunch with other attorneys just to kind of get an idea of like, what is it that you do? Do you like it? Based on like what I've told you about me, do you feel like it's a good idea? Just kind of gauging that.
Mhm.
So even if it's just that one-on-one, trying to get more information about the pivot you want to make,
Mhm.
it's networking in general is just so important. And then those are the people that are willing to stick their necks out to help you in the event that you make the pivot. They're
Mhm.
there for you because they were there from the beginning.
Mhm. Yeah, definitely.
So for me, I think doing personality tests to figure out if you are like truly don't know exactly which way you want to go, finding things that actually align with your personality, and then networking with people that are in um that position that you want to go to, and then doing it softly, following up with them and finding out their interests. This year, I I actually last year I completed something that's called the McKinsey Leadership Program through my school, through my job, and it was a game changer because it taught me a lot of different things about business, personal leadership, development. And I truly, at the last year, I didn't have the capacity to truly network with intention. But this
Mhm.
year, it was something that was really on my list to be intentional. So earlier this year, there was an event that they had that I was the first person to put my LinkedIn out there. And there was somebody that was on there that I was just like, you kind of drawn to. So I went to their
Mhm.
LinkedIn profile and saw that they were a phenomenal, and I don't want to give it away, but they were phenomenal at um,
What they
it was
did.
project management. Yeah, what they
Mhm.
did. So I ended up sending them a DM and just saying, I followed your LinkedIn page. This is absolutely amazing. I definitely want the time to just do a brief coffee chat with you. And to my surprise, they were like more than welcomed and excited to actually meet with me.
Mhm.
And I did that. And now I have a new mentor. And my mentor has been a game changer for me with finding out different ways that I can level up my career, in my personal development, and my professional development, and also taking me to the next level. So I think that's something that I'm super grateful for Mackenzie, but also super grateful for my mentor as well.
Okay. Yeah, and I think, mentorship is so important. Um, when you can find a good mentor, and I think a lot of times we as, professionals don't necessarily know how to be a good mentor, and so sometimes we think that we're mentoring. I sort of went off on a tangent because I'm thinking of a story in my head, as always. But I think, like I said, I think mentoring is so important, but I think it's more important to just not look at someone's credentials and choose them as a mentor. And I think that's what I was trying to say. You really have to be a good match with that person, and it depends on what you want. You have to know what you want out of the relationship, because it's a two-way, it's a two-way street. Like, you're a mentee, but you have to be able to communicate with this person, right? Because it shouldn't be like a hierarchy, right? I mean, well, I guess some people might like that, but for me, a mentor is somebody that doesn't want to make me a mini them. They're meeting me where I am, and we're having that discussion right off the bat about what I want to get from this relationship, but also what they want to get from this relationship. Because them mentoring me is also um, strengthening them in some capacity, right? And I think a lot of times, at least in my experience, you know, when I seek out, and not all the time, but when I seek it out, it's like somebody's like, "Oh, well, just do it this way," and I'm like, "Well." I mean, that doesn't necessarily work for me. So I sort of want to be able to talk to you about my suggestions, and then we sort of come together with a way to do it. So have you all experienced that or not really?
So I definitely had my fair share of good mentors and bad mentors. And I think what you said about being open and honest and being more clear. And I feel like this kind of goes and back into our last podcast about rest and reflection, because when you have that rest and reflection, then you are able to have a level of clarity and insight in what you need that will help you move forward. So that's the key thing that I would say that's important with having a mentor. And then also being open and honest and having that relationship and that rapport with a mentor, just say, you know what, this is what I need. And if you can't self advocate, it's going to definitely be detrimental. Can be, I'm not going to say detrimental, but it can be not productive with your relationship with your mentor.
Hmm. Yeah.
I think the only bad mentoring situation I've been in is only when the person was in a different industry and I needed an industry specific mentor. So they
Okay.
were feeling very insecure about their ability to
Hmm.
be a mentor. And I think that insecurity kind of led to the breakdown. But what they did do, because they were still concerned about me getting the advocacy or getting what I needed out of it. They did recommend another person to me that turned out to be a good mentor. Um, so it was a really nice person. They just weren't the right
Hmm.
person. Yeah. But I
Yeah.
otherwise I've had really, really good mentors.
And I want to piggyback on something that you said because it depends on the person too. Because one of the best key pieces of advice came from when I was making my third career pivot, was from one of my friends that was looking over my resume. And in banking, the fact that I could bring over my own clients was a big plus. But when I went made the shift to insurance, having that on my resume and broadcasting that kind of showed like a little bit of disloyalty. So that's the key thing,
Mhm.
that you definitely have to be able to definitely understand where you're going, and then also understanding and taking that mentor or that person's information and filtering it out to make sure that it suits your needs.
Mm.
Wow. I
And
never really would have
so,
thought about it like that.
yeah, definitely. So I think I think it was Gigi mentioned something about personality. And so it's so interesting. So recently I took a course and um, I was introduced, I don't know if you've heard of the four tendencies. So it's it's Gretchen Rubin and is the author, and she has like this like checklist, like this quiz, and I've done like the other ones. They're too long. I'm gonna be honest, like I don't know what I think I'm like INT something, I don't remember now, but this one is relatively quick and it's funny. So you can be an upholder, a questioner, an obliger, or a rebel. And it's funny because I've taken the test, but I always send it to my friends and I always tell them, don't tell me what you got. And so far, I have nailed it on every single one of them. So I'll send you all like the test later on,
I was
but
gonna say we need to do this.
I'll save it. I'll just read out like the descriptions for everybody just so they sort of know. But it's and I'll read out the descriptions. I'll see if y'all can guess which one I am. So you can either be an upholder, so that means you respond readily to both outer and inner expectations. So discipline is my freedom is the quote that has. And then you can be a questioner where you question all expectations, and this person will meet an expectation if it makes sense for them. So essentially, they make all expectations into inner expectations. So I'll comply if you convince me why I should.
Mhm.
And then you have the obliger, which meets outer expectations, but struggle to meet expectations that they put on themselves. So that's the person that's like, you can count on me and I'm counting on you to count on me. Like they don't have that intrinsic motivation. And then you have the rebel, which is they resist all expectations, outer and inner. And they're the you can't make me and neither can I type person. And I think what I love about it is it's so simple and plain, and you can honestly see how two people may like butt heads. Like it's nothing personal. It's just like you can see how these two people, I see where they might struggle. So just out
Mhm.
of curiosity, which one do you all think I am?
Questioner.
I agree with that.
I
You're
am not.
what?
She said she's
Wait.
not.
She's
What?
not.
What? Wait.
I don't think
So
you're a rebel.
upholder, questioner, obliger, rebel.
Mm, He has an upholder though.
I mean, questioner was my immediate thought, and I honestly can't think of another one that makes sense. So you're gonna
So
have to tell me.
I think it's one of those where like it's like you are more one, but you have some of one. So I will say
Oh,
I
okay,
am sort of a questioner, but that's not my primary.
that's not your primary. Okay.
Mm-mm.
I feel like I have to
Um.
hear it again.
Okay. So inner and outer expectations.
Is
Discipline is my
That's
freedom
an upholder.
upholder, and then
Uh-huh.
we have the questioner, and it's like
If you
I'll
tell
do it if
me
it makes sense.
right,
And then we have the obliger, which is like you can count
I'll
on
do
me.
it for
Really, I
you.
can't count on me
Right.
because
I'll do it if you tell me to do something and you're counting on me, it'll get done. But if I set an expectation for myself, it might not get done.
I don't see that for
and
you.
and
And then
then the
rebel
rebel, which is
is
like
you
all
can't
bets
make
are
me. You can't-
off. Hmm, hmm. An upholder. Not no. No. That's not the one I meant. Obliger.
Gigi,
I say upholder with the
I'm a rebel.
What? You know, I do it no matter what.
But no, because here's the thing. And I guess and once you like go through the test and look at it, you might agree. I
Okay.
am very much a person that's if I don't want to do it, I'm not gonna do it. Like I don't care, like not like in a negative way, but it's like just because you say that I should do this, if I don't feel like I should do it, I'm just not going to do it. And then also I'm horrible with personal expectations cuz I'm okay, this is a more tangible example. If I have something to do, like I'm exhausted. I just drove back from Florida yesterday, had to go to work early this morning, went to choir the whole nine, just got home. So I'm exhausted and I have work to do. I'm not going to do it. Like I gotta go to sleep. My body told me that I need to sleep after this. So but some people will, because there are people that are expecting me to do this, but I'm like, I'll just do it tomorrow. I mean, procrastinator, rebel, call it what you want. But I'm like, you're not, yeah. So anyway, but it's a really cool test. And I think it helps because like there are people that I bump heads with, but it's not again, I like them. Sometimes I love them. It's just they have one type of personality and it's just like your love language, right? Like we always say we love in our love language. And then we're with somebody and we don't understand why there's so much strife and it's because they love in their love language. And so
hmm
they're looking for you to do what they but it's like we love each other. Why can't we figure this out? But I look at it like sort of like that. So yeah.
I can see that.
That was a whole tangent. So,
It's okay
yeah,
because it was a good one.
I'm gonna send it to you. But yeah, it's Gretchen Rubin, but I'll send it to you. So yeah, so I have a listener story for everybody about sort of like that career pivot. So Tasha, so this is hold on, there we go. I just pulled it up. So it says, "Hey guys, I'm Tasha. Just want to say that sometimes the universe whispers and sometimes it screams through your joints." So picture this. I'm in my late 30s working as a corporate event planner. Fancy title, but in reality, I was surviving off hotel coffee and walking 12 miles a day in flats that lied about being comfortable. Every month, I was planning some conference or gala, running on fumes, caffeines, and vibes. Then one day, mid setup for a trade show, I bent down to plug in a projector, and my knee said, absolutely not. Long
Mm.
story short, knee pop was the beginning of a whole journey. Physical therapy turned into curiosity, which turned into me binging podcasts and books about holistic health, functional movement, and wellness. And one day, my physical therapist joked, "You know more than some of my interns." And I thought, bet. So fast
Wow.
forward a year and a half later, I'm now a certified health coach. I help other women ditch the hustle culture and create routines that don't require 5 a.m. spin class and oat milk protein sludge. I still plan events sometimes, but now they're wellness retreats with good snacks and optional stretching. Moral of the story, listen to your body, especially when it starts talking in all caps.
I love it.
I
I
know.
love
Wow.
So
that too.
I was gonna say, I think that ties right into what we were talking about earlier with the burnout and just
Right.
going and going and going, right? So, and trying to keep that fancy title, right? So yeah, yeah. So I know I can't remember which one of you said it, but somebody talked about LinkedIn. So are we on LinkedIn? Are we like using it for its true purpose, you think, or how do you think you can leverage it more? What is a tip you have for our viewers about this?
So I'm definitely leveraging a lot more because I backed off of social media completely
Mhm,
outside of LinkedIn. So I don't
mhm.
post often on LinkedIn, and I recently did my first post because I recently got a certificate on there, and I was kind of celebrating it. I actually waited a
Okay.
whole month after I got my certificate to post on there, but it's a way that you can definitely create and cultivate your mentors, and then also you can create what the world that you want to see. And that's, and as far as learning, because that's something I do, I love learning, and that's what I leverage LinkedIn throughout my day. I might scroll through there and just and follow the people that and the thought leaders that I really like James Clear, um adam Adam Grant, and Simon Sinek. Like those are people that I follow. And I even Mel Robbins is somebody I follow often as well. And even with transitioning and pivoting, there's a lot of career coaches that are out there. I wish I knew this one particular person's name, but she has really great content as far as making the journey and then also interviewing and different things of that nature as well.
Okay. So what I am hearing from you is sort of leveraging that social media to work for you versus that mind numbing uh TikTok people dancing all day,
Mhm.
which I am guilty of. I have a timer on my Instagram for 15 minutes. I'm allowed 15 minutes of Instagram a day. And when it goes off, I usually just say mute for the day. But I know though that I'm not doing a lot more than that because then now I'm like thinking about it. But before Didi, before you go, I wanted to talk about something you said, Gigi, because I know, and I don't think you mentioned it earlier. But also, as you're thinking about these career changes and these pivots and just leveling up in general, there are a lot of free resources out there, and sometimes we don't realize it. And sometimes your mentor may just be the one to sort of share that with you. Maybe they're not like truly mentoring you on a regular, but maybe they're just showing you what's available, right? So like certificate courses or a lot of, I know there's a lot of women in business courses that are available. And again, they're usually free. You just have to know where to look. So I know that you've taken advantage of some of those. You don't have to go into detail on it, but just sort of say like sort of how you found them or how you found out about them.
Oh, yes, actually, I went to Cornell University or eCornell, and my professor tapped me on the shoulder virtually and told me about a business course that is put on by Bank of America designed
Mhm,
for women. And it is actual absolutely free course, and it's a 12-week course
mhm,
designed for women to learn more about entrepreneurship, and that's absolutely phenomenal. And then also say that you do want to invest some money in it. Coursera is a phenomenal
mhm,
resource that's about $50 a month. And I'm actually working on a business analytics certificate that my mentor told me about. And then I recently found out about micro bachelor's degrees and micro master's degrees. And
mhm.
I actually plan to leverage my education benefit from my job and do that later on and get a micro master's.
Very cool. Yeah. I'm actually in that eCornell Bank of America course, actually.
Do,
Funny
do
enough.
you like
Yeah.
it?
Oh, I haven't started it yet. I pushed
Okay.
it back because I knew I just had too much going on, so I enrolled, but I think it starts April, I think. So I have to, yeah. So we'll see. I mean, I'm sure it'll be great, but like I said, um trying to go more into that entrepreneurship side. I don't know that I necessarily need it, but I know it can't hurt. It can't hurt. So yeah. So yeah, very cool. And what about you, Didi? What is your LinkedIn story?
I'm pretty terrible on LinkedIn, to be honest. Like, um, I don't go on there as often as I need to. I go on there in a similar to the way I shop. I go in, I do the thing I went in there to do, and then I leave. So,
Mm-hmm.
um,
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
so I might go in there to read an article from a specific person, and once I've read it, I get off. Um, I hardly ever post. I really do need to get better about it because people do reach out to me
Mm-hmm.
frequently, and it could turn out that you know, I'm the they want to take me to lunch to ask about my experience type
Mm-hmm.
situation, and they're just not getting a response because I'm really bad about LinkedIn. So if you ever send me a message on LinkedIn, so sorry.
Yeah. No, I mean, and no, but what you said is so true. I actually have had two legit job offers come from LinkedIn.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, it's there, and I know there's an option to like set your profile as seeking. I'm pretty sure mine still says seeking, even though I have a job. I'm not looking for a job currently.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I'm like, well, if you have something amazing for me, reach out.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? So definitely, and I've gotten better at it, and so I was telling somebody I use it now sort of as like a visual resume. So it's like, I have, of course, I have this long CV, but it's like if I'm involved in something or someone asks me to speak somewhere or we publish an article, I'm like, stick it up on LinkedIn. It takes 2 seconds, but it like, people think you're doing something, right?
Hmm.
It's like, so yeah, and I'll be honest, I have used it strategically to get sometimes my supervisors, like higher supervisors, to know what I'm doing, because I
Hmm.
feel like, when you go like 3 4 people above me, they don't know what I'm doing on a daily basis. I mean, they know I'm doing my job, but they're not seeing sort of that extra that I'm doing.
Right.
So it's nice when you're connected online, they see like you're collaborating, you're doing this, you're being interprofessional, you're doing all that. So that's how I use it. So I would definitely say, if you have time for social media, hint, hint, Didi, you can do, you can do 1 to 2 minutes on LinkedIn every day. And I think, especially with everything happening, and I think, just even having like other attorneys that are in the world, and you get to sort of see what they're doing, because I feel like we do that sometimes on other platforms, but it's not as curated. Sometimes it's just like versus it's like a nice, because LinkedIn people sort of put their best foot forward. So I feel like sometimes it cuts through some of the noise a little bit, to
Right.
really that. Yeah. Well, I don't really have anything else for this. I mean, do we want to sort of talk about what our takeaways were, and from the episode, or anything that you want to leave with our listeners?
So I can go first. Something I definitely want to leave with you is I actually, through the McKinsey Leadership Program, there was a statistic that still sits with me and it resonates with me. They said that 85% of jobs come through networking. So for
Mhm.
me, if the next level that I want to go to, I definitely know that I don't want to just lean on my network just for that reason, but I do want to keep that in mind that my next opportunity might come from my network.
Mhm.
So definitely, I want to say that it's called Dex. My mentor told me about an application, if I'm not mistaken, it's called Dex. So you could actually have it in your network. So when job changes or different events happen in your network, you can be proactive and reach out to your network. So it's not always like for a need. There's
Mhm.
like a genuine interest that you can create and you could be proactive and make sure that they're aware of you. And yeah.
Yeah, and just to piggyback off that, even though I know this is supposed to be takeaways, just like what you said, like you're not always reaching out for a need. So I was a part of a network when I lived in New York. And when my place of employment would have opportunities, I would post in my network because I knew there were a lot of people that looked like me that weren't in my space that wanted to be
Mm,
in that space. And I knew that they didn't have that network that others tend to have. So I would put it in there and be like, hey, this is of interest to you. Send me your resume. Send me your, and I try to do that. And I'll be honest, sometimes people just don't respond. They're like, yeah, I'm interested. And then they drop off. But I still feel like I'm doing my part a little bit. And so then I would hope, like you said, so that when I go to my network looking for something, maybe they'll, it's reciprocated, right? It's like a back and forth type of relationship. So there, yeah. How about you, Dee Dee?
Do it afraid.
Mhm.
There's always going to be something that scares you about that pivot, something that um, someone may try to put a bug in your ear. No, you should stick to something steady, or don't try to, jump into entrepreneurship. It's too unstable, or, whatever that is. But if it's something that you're being called to do, you just feel it. Um, like the listener Tasha said about if it's screaming in your bones, do it.
Yeah.
Figure out the best way to make it work for you, because it could be completely life changing. So do it afraid.
Word. Yeah. And I don't think I have anything else to say because I think that was a perfect way to end. So
Stay spicy.
stay soulful.
stay rooted.
Until next
Until
time.
next time.